Here's the gist of Mega Man 11.
Alright. Oh my god! Alright, I just went with it, man. I just went with the flow.
This is a 2.5D side-scrolling platformer from Capcom, but I don't have to tell you that. Everyone knows about Mega Man, right? Oh god, are there kids who don't know about Mega Man? An absolute classic of a franchise, Mega Man rocked the 80s and 90s with hit after hit, putting out 5 fantastic NES titles, and a few brilliant games with different styles of gameplay here and there across the entire spectrum of consoles. We had a pretty long gap between classic Mega Man games, despite spin-off releases of varying quality. 9 and 10 were throwbacks released in the late 2000s, but we had no sign of the true Blue Bomber for years, simply cheap knockoffs. However, Mega Man 11 stunned fans when it was announced, promising to bring back the core gameplay of the NES days while updating the formerly 8-bit graphics to something a bit more modern. In short, it was trying to please fans of the original titles while being more accessible for a younger audience, smooth out the edges while maintaining the tight controls, fun weapons, and tough as nails difficulties of the originals. Did it succeed? Well, let's find out. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm playing the Switch version of Mega Man 11. It's also available on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. But no matter what platform you're playing on, one thing is constant. You need a controller. Keyboard controls do exist for the Steam release, but I'd hardly call them ideal. So while I'm discussing gameplay, I'll be referring to the controls of the Switch Pro controller. Of course, the controls can be customized extensively to suit your fancy. So with that out of the way, let's discuss gameplay. The basics are still in place. Dr. Wily has 8 robot masters that you have to defeat. You choose which one you'll tackle first and navigate their themed stage filled with deadly spikes, deadly pits, deadly enemies, and death. Health and lives are as classic as ever, functioning as one would expect from an NES title. Enemies deal damage, health power-ups can be found to restore it, losing all your health or dying to a one-hit KO trap will result in you losing a life. Losing all your lives results in a game over, resetting any checkpoints you hit throughout the level. Platforming is just as basic, with running, jumping, and sliding being your only real forms of movement. You start armed with a chargeable Mega Buster that fires simple pellets in a straight line, your canine companion Rush to reach greater heights, and the entirely new double gear system.
Alright, now here is where this weapon will come in handy. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's exactly what I needed. Ow.
Upon pressing the right trigger, time will be temporarily slowed, making complex platforming whilst dodging enemies a breeze. The left trigger will power up your weapons, increasing their damage and output. And only when your health is critical, clicking both simultaneously will grant you a mix of both abilities, shredding anything in your path. This feature doesn't last forever though, as both types of power consume meter from the same bar. The double gear will passively restore charge while not being used. However, if you use too much of the power, the double gear system will overheat, becoming unusable until it fully recharges. While some classic fans may see the double gear system as a cop-out easy win tool, it is technically optional. However, the game heavily expects you to use and abuse it. This carries over into the boss fights. Just like classic Mega Man, boss fights will trap you in an arena with a single robot master. They'll jump around in unique patterns and fire at you with your signature weapon. The twist is all of these robot masters have also been outfitted with double gears, meaning they'll occasionally power themselves up or exponentially increase their speed. Of course, you're expected to use your own double gear system to counteract this boost. However, in my opinion, it changes the double gear from being an optional power increase when used to an optional difficulty increase when not used. Regardless, assuming you're only armed with a Mega Buster, you'll have to optimally plan your jump shots and double gear usage to take on any robot master. Many of the bosses feel, frankly, cheap and unfair, moving and attacking in patterns designed specifically to trip you up, which isn't unlike the originals. However, once you overcome the obstacle, you'll be rewarded with a boss weapon, the very same you were just faced against. This, in my opinion, is Mega Man 11's strongest point. All 8 boss weapons are exceptional, providing creative movement options and directional attacks to give the player more and more options to tackle levels as they progress through the game. These weapons can be swapped to by pausing, using the bumpers, or the new weapon wheel on the right right joystick. Be careful though, unlike the Mega Buster, these weapons take energy to use, which depletes upon every shot, but can be restored by power-ups dropped by enemies. You'll want to keep track of what weapons are charged though, as every Robot Master you'll encounter will be cripplingly weak to another Robot Master's weapon, which you of course may or may not have depending on which order you decide to face the bosses in. Good luck figuring out what weapons to use though, as the order of operations is arbitrary at best. Mega Man 11 weaknesses. To Tundra Man's weapon? No way. That doesn't make any sense. Why would he be weak to ice? Why would the fire boss be weak to ice? Why? Okay, let's just do this. Yeah, wow. Wow! Wow! Okay, the bosses aren't weak to weapons in this game. The weapons just fucking remove the idea of a boss fight. There is no boss! The Double Gear system's power-up isn't limited to the Mega Buster, as boss weapons can be augmented by the Power Gear, making these weapons bigger and better at the cost of more energy. In between struggling your way through deadly stages and facing bosses you'd best be prepared for, you can stop by the shop in the main menu to spend screws collected throughout the maps on extra lives, health, and energy restoration items, as well as temporary immunity to 1-hit KO stage hazards or more permanent items, like the Energy Balancer, which automatically restores weapon energy to whatever needs it the most when you pick up energy drops, or Double Gear upgrades, including one that lets you move in real time with the Speed Gear. Once you've tackled all 8 stages and stolen the weaponry of every Robot Master, you'll face the final few Wily stages, with more complex platforming and bosses standing in your way before the big final encounter with the final boss. I won't spoil it for you, I guess, but let's be real. Mega Man Classic games aren't exactly known for their, plots. The stories are bare bones and generic as they come, but the characters are adorable and lovable to make up for it, even if the voice acting is cheesy at times. Speaking of sound, while all the sound effects and voice clips are acceptable, nothing particularly outstanding, but nothing egregious either, the music is lackluster. It's not bad at all, simply lacking the same soul, the high energy crispness of the original chiptunes. I feel as though the tracks are being held back by trying to match the classic beat and rush, but using a more modern sound font. This feeling is amplified by the existence of an AST provided as a pre-order bonus, which uses real instruments to perform the same melodies. Frankly, I find this version of the soundtrack vastly superior as opposed to being trapped somewhere between old and new, a problem the rest of the game handily avoids, which brings me to my conclusion. Mega Man 11 at an agreeable $30 price point is an excellent entry into the classic lineup of games, and hopefully will bring back the franchise as a whole. It's a great starting line for newcomers to the series, as the aptly named Newcomer game mode offers infinite lives, halved damage, frequent checkpoints, and infinite immunity to instant death hazards. As for veterans, the upper 3 difficulties offer the same intense challenge as the classic entries once did. Said difficulty is often unfair, throwing swarms of enemies and spikes your way with no real rhyme or reason, no intended path to avoid or eliminate them. But that's how the classics were too. Let's be real, Mega Man Classic has never been a crowning achievement of level design. Maps are unforgiving, enemies are obnoxiously placed, damage and death are expected and frequent.
Oh, what? What was that bullshit? Literally no warning, just drops on top of you. What was that bullshit? Come on!
But the feeling of overcoming it, finally making it to and past the boss at the end, is what made this franchise so satisfying in the first place. And Mega Man 11 does a great job of recapturing it, without the small screen size, slowdown, and other technical limitations of the NES entries. Topped off with additional game modes like Time Attack, Boss Rush, and other challenges, and knowing Capcom, plenty of DLC that's sure to follow, there's a lot here for fanatics of Mega Man such as myself. If you're looking for a completely new, rebooted take on Mega Man as a franchise, well, this ain't it. While the Double Gear is a nice addition, it's a little more than a gimmick in the grand scheme of things. But if you're looking for a modern version of the NES platformer series that fans fell in love with, Mega Man 11 rocks, man. Shit. Thanks for watching, and take it easy.